Hey guys, so what I'm going to show you today is how to make your own stamp. Now you can get these at craft stores, but they're kind of expensive for a small image. What we're going to do is we are going to make our own, and you can mix and match kind of different images to make bigger stamps. Okay, and you can kind of see that simple supplies. So I'm going to go through with you step by step how to make your own stamp for either printmaking with paper or design on walls. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so first thing that I have done is I have done designs on scrap paper. So anywhere is going to be fine. So you can see that all these little flowers, hearts, leaves, anything like that, I kind of brainstormed what I wanted on my stamp. Okay, now you can see some of these flowers and these leaves, I might want to have a different color. So for example, if I have kind of a center of a flower, I can make another stamp to do petals all the way around. So one stamp doesn't have to be a full big stamp, if that makes sense. Sometimes you want to have a design in one big shape. Sometimes you want to have maybe leaves and flowers coming out. So that's what you kind of have to decide when you're making this first off, okay? Now, what you will need is foam. Now, what I mean by foam sheets, it's in craft stores, it's really cheap. This one is going to be a sticker back. So if I pull this apart, sticky, okay? So I want to use a thinner kind that is a sticker back. Now my second type of foam is going to be a little thicker, and it's not a sticker back, okay? So what that means is just foam, both sides, it's a little bit thicker. It's kind of 1/4 of an inch, and it is a larger piece. So you can see the larger one, the smaller one. Now we are going to use the sticker back first. We're not going to worry about the big one right now. What you're going to do is flip it over to the paper side. That's really important because using your designs, you are going to draw your image on the back of this. Now, I am going to take my pencil and I'm just going to, like, if I wanted some flowers, simple shapes, don't feel scared because we're just using pencil. And I can go back and forth. If I make a mistake, not a problem, because this is just the paper side. We're not even going to use the paper, because this, remember, that paper comes off and it's a sticker. So we're going to make a simple shape at first. And don't feel like you have to make it super small. Make them pretty big. If you make them really small, like this, okay, that's just, when you cut it out, not a good thing. You want them a pretty good size. I wouldn't do any smaller than this. Have big sizes with your hand, like do a big flower. But we'll just do a small one so I can show you the process. If you need to start out small, not a big problem. Okay. Another thing, don't put your flower in the middle. We want to use this whole thing. We're just going to start out with this flower. I'm going to cut out. So now, perfect, I have that much left to use. I'll set that aside. I have a little bit of flower, and I'm going to cut those petals out. Done, okay, nice. But see how I have this middle part? Now, you might think, oh my goodness, how am I going to get that middle part out? Two ways. You can take your scissors, you can poke a hole, and you can kind of trim around. If it's a smaller hole, especially like this, don't be afraid to actually, we're gonna cut it right to the circle. You can kind of see. And I am just gonna cut that circle right out. Now don't worry about if it's perfect, it's okay, but if you are wanting to have some circles that are perfect, circles that are around cups, tape, you can just look around. There's plates around you. There are circles that you can trace, okay? So I now have a flower. Now you might think, oh my goodness, I have this like crease. Don't worry about that. It's not a problem. So now I have kind of a couple of flowers that are cut out, but they're kind of thin. We need to make it bulkier. So how to do that is we are going to bring back our thick piece of foam, and we are going to take the tape, the sticky part, this paper, and we're going to peel it off. Okay, trash, throw that away. And we're going to set this, and remember, not in the middle, we want to get it on the edge so we can use this whole piece. And I'm going to set this on the edge close as possible and get that one side first and then the other. Now, this little piece, we want to make sure that it lines up so there's no gap. Easy peasy. Look at that. Bam! Done. Okay? So same thing, doing flowers, but I like to do one at a time. So now I'm going to cut out this thicker piece. I'm going to put this aside, use it for later. And so see, now I have a thicker piece, so when I stamp, it's going to be sturdier. But I want to make sure I get pretty close to this flower. I don't want anything that's coming out. Now I'll kind of show you why later, why we want this foam to be as close to our design. Now I'm going to cut that pretty close. And you can see that there's still a little bit of gap. Not a problem, just leave it. But get as close as you can. Okay. Now, this middle part, you can add designs in the middle if you want. So this little circle, I kept it because what I can do is I can cut it smaller and I can make a design for the middle of the flower. You can do a circle, you can do a diamond shape, you can do an X, anything you want. You can leave it empty, but I'm going to put a little bit of a design in there. So you can see now I have a little dot within my flower. And that's it, guys. Okay? Now you can make more intense designs. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see that I put more intense designs and made a bigger piece. Also, I can reach in. Feel free to make things that you can mix and match. So you can see that I cut out this here, and I'll kind of explain why I did that later on. But what I can do is I can mix and match. I can put a circle within this flower. I can put a flower within the flower. I can leave it blank. I can put leaves when I stamp. I can put bigger pieces, okay? So think about, it's kind of puzzle pieces of design, what you can use over and over again, but make it different every time, okay? Now, I'm gonna show you how to print these on into paper. You can do it on wall, you can do it on wood, you can do it on pretty much anything. So let's work on that, shall we? So I have a bigger piece of paper that we're going to kind of practice on so you can see what it looks like. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing this on walls, on a door, on something that has a lot of texture, it's going to come out a little bit different every time. Even on paper, because it's smooth, you're going to get a lot more paint on the surface because it's smoother. But every time I use my print, it will come out slightly different every time. So keep that in mind. When we're printing and putting these stamps down, it's not going to be always even. So just keep that in mind. If you need to, you can touch it up with a paintbrush, not a problem. But I'm going to show you how to layer this. Now, I am actually going to start with not our flower that we made, but the bigger flower. Because then when I add this in the middle, I'll have a little bit more of an idea of where it's at. Now, why I cut out the middle is if I have my roller, I roll out my paint and I put it here and I get it in the middle, when I press this down, it's going to have a big blob. So I like to cut out bigger shapes in the middle. Now, if it's something small, all you have to take is like something to wipe it off if it gets a lot of paint in there. But we're going to use rollers to not have blobs of paint. Now, I'm going to do this red. I'm going to set these aside. Now we're going to make ribbons of paint, and I'm going to shimmy this over so you guys can see this. Instead of dabbing, blop, blop, okay, this is not what we want to see. We want to roll this out evenly. That is extremely important. If you blob paint everywhere, it's just going to be a big mess. You want to make sure it is even. Now, this is acrylic paint. If you're doing stuff on doors, houses, this is going to be great. House paint is going to be a little bit thinner. Well, it might be the same texture. It will work too. So I'm going to have, you can kind of see, it is pretty thin, okay? Now I'm going to roll this on evenly, but pretty fast. You don't want to take your time because this can dry out pretty fast. So we want to work quickly. Now you can see that stuff is getting on, and you can see that. So when we press down, be aware, if it's a really big glob, just wipe it away with a rag, some tissue, an old sock, whatever you have. But that's going to happen no matter what. It's just part of printmaking. You can see I'm still trying to get it pretty even. Now I do dab in there in the paint and I bring it out, and this is called a ribbon when you bring the paint down, okay? Now I have it pretty even. I might go back a little bit more, but we want to get the general idea of this. And kind of going over it one more time quickly. Okay, so I can see that it's pretty even. I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to press down with this. Now when I put this, I'm going to lightly put my hand, and you want to start at one point and go to the next. If it is a middle, start in the middle and go outwards. Pretty much you're making a big stamp. This is printmaking at its basis, but you're making a really big stamp. And I'm just using my fingers. Okay, now if you want to, you can hold it down and you can lift it up a bit. Ooh, nice, beautiful. And I can lift it up on the other side, take a look, beautiful. I'm gonna pull that out. Now, with printmaking, see this texture? That you are always going to have. It is called chatter or noise, okay? You're gonna have this with any texture. Even if it's smooth, if it's a wall, it's wood, anything like that. Now, if you're doing this on like a door or a wall, you might want to go back with a paintbrush to touch it up if that bothers you. Because this gives you a general idea of where the flower is if you want to touch it up. Me, I personally love that texture. So that's just up to you, but it is always going to happen. Now, my next thing is the yellow. Ooh, I got a little bit of red in that one. It's all good. It's all good. Now, I would suggest putting this, if I'm done with this, wash it, put it in water, a bucket of water, let it sit so you can wash it. That's what I'm going to do right now. because it's acrylic, it dries fast and it can get, you know, stuck in there, okay? Now, same thing with the yellow. I'm bringing this down, making a ribbon, going side to side. What I'm using is a kind of plastic, you can use something to tape down so you can throw away later. Hard surface paper, but it is a wax paper and it's pretty easy to use. Now, same thing with my flower that we made. Even strokes, make sure it doesn't have any blobs of paint. You'll do fine. Okay, we'll just make sure, go over it one more time. Beautiful. Now, that's why we do the small last, because then I can see where it's at. If I do the bigger one, it might like overlap. So I can eye it, see where I want, press down, start from the middle, and work your way out with those fingers. It's a bit bigger piece, use your whole hand to use it, okay? Bigger pieces, like this monster, you'll want to use your whole hand to press down, but make sure one hand is on it always to press down, okay? Now the bigger ones might have more chatter just because bigger surface, but you can go in and touch up if you don't like that texture. Now I'm gonna bring it up. Oh, nice, beautiful. Look how beautiful that is. Okay, look how awesome. And I'm gonna put that over by water. And my last little bit is the green, okay? So we have this nice flower. You can put green on both sides. You can just do on one side. You can add things. Even if you wanted that yellow, maybe here and here, that's up to you. But we're gonna do this last green one so we can kind of finish up. Even strokes. Okay, that is looking good. Set that aside. Now, why I keep setting this on this side, it's a brayer. If I leave it like this, this paint is just gonna get everywhere. Always set the brayer on this metal part, so then it stays clean. If you're putting it down, it is gonna be a mess. Things are just gonna get really messy really fast. So make sure that brayer is looking upwards. Okay, so now we have this little guy. We're gonna put him right here. And I'll scoot him just a tad. Same thing, kind of working from the middle, or if it's a direction, from a direction, whatever's easier. I like to work from the middle or direction outwards. Make sure you get all of the little petals, every little corner in the middle. Sometimes you forget to do the middle. Sometimes you forget to do an edge. So go around the edges in the middle multiple times. Okay, I'm gonna just check that. Ooh, he kind of dried out. So this one's gonna have a lot of texture to it. Lift that up. Okay, so you can see, let me move this so you can see a little bit better. So can you see that this is super light? Just because the paint got really dry. Now, a couple of things. If you're bold, which I'm not, you can try to do it again, but it might be skewed. I would go in with maybe a paintbrush if you want to do that again. It kind of gives it a little bit of flavor and texture. Personally, I like it, but once again, up to you of how you want to see this. Now, I'm gonna do it one more time over here. Let's see, do I have enough space? We'll be off the page, that's fine. This is just an example. And we're gonna get a little bit more paint because we know that's going to be drying out. Now while I'm doing this, I want to talk about this color. Now, if say that I want this petal to be greens and blues, what you want to do is make sure that you wipe off this before you add a different color. So if you wanted this petal to be blue, make sure that you wipe it off and let it dry. Then you can have it a different color. If you just put another color down, it's going to be kind of muddy looking after a while. So you can definitely use different colors for different stamps. I usually like to keep to one color to one stamp to make sure it stays clean, but it is not a problem if you feel like you want to try something new. So once again, I'm going to press down, working my way from up and out. Let's see if we can get more color to this. I'm going to lift that up. Woo! Look at that. Bold! So, sometimes it comes out bold, sometimes it comes out with a lot more noise or chatter, that texture. That's just kind of the toss-up. You never really know. It's just trying to get an even amount, a good amount, and the pressure. Okay? So, we're going to set that aside. Put this in the water. And now we have our pretty little flower. Now feel free to add more color stamps, anything like that, adding texture or flowers going outwards. If you want to, especially in this area, feel free to touch up with brush paint. But that's how you do a homemade stamp, guys. So, good luck. You'll do well.